Lehrhaus Judaica, in partnership with the Osher Marin JCC, presented a half-day conference in March 2013 entitled Free-Ranging Communities, Jewish Life in Marin and Hollywood. Part of the day focused on the diversity that makes Marin County, California special, to 7 different voices from our community. In this segment, you'll meet David Knepler, co-founder of Gan HaLev congregation, adoptive father of 2, and facilitator of the Jewish American Fiction Book Club.
Shalom. My name is David Knepler, and I am a second-generation Jewish American from Trumbull, Connecticut, where my grandfather, on my mother's side, donated the land that Trumbull's first and only shul would eventually be built on. He was not very observant, but he was a generous donor to many Jewish organizations and congregations, as long as he never had to set foot in any of them. He came to this country in 1907 from Eastern Europe and took the last name of the man that gave him his first job in America. My mother, Bertha Klar, one of the 5 children that survived childbirth, was born in Jewish Harlem in 1913 and worked in her family's glass and mirror business for over 60 years in Bridgeport, Connecticut. My father's parents also came to the U.S. around 1907 from Romania, and as greenhorns were immediately taken advantage of as a helpful Jewish stranger fleeced them of almost all their possessions and cash shortly upon arrival in New York. They shuttled back and forth between Bridgeport, Connecticut and New Brunswick, New Jersey, looking for work. My father's father worked in the garment industry and lost many a job because he would not work on Shabbos. He became an early member of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. My father, Abraham Knepler, born in 1911, received his PhD from Yale, the same institution that had rejected him as an undergrad because they had, quote, reached their quota of students from his race, that is, Jewish. He became a professor in sociology. He and my mother raised us in a Connecticut suburb, co-founded the shul that I mentioned earlier, that was unfortunately located immediately next door to our house, making it impossible for my older brother and I to ever skip Hebrew school, which we went to 3 times a week for classes and on Saturdays for Jewish congregation. We kept a kosher household, except on nights when my father would work late and my mother would come home, tired from a long day of work, with a bag full of McDonald's cheeseburgers and milkshakes, unbeknownst to my father. From my bar mitzvah in 1968 to the early 1990s, my Jewish observance slid. When my wife Karen and I moved to Woodacre in San Geronimo Valley in West Marin in 1988, there was neither a Jewish congregation nor a great desire by us to be part of anything Jewish, outside of an occasional yearning around the high holidays, Passover, or Hanukkah. But in 1991, my father had a debilitating stroke. And in 1992, I responded to an advertisement in the local paper placed by Suzanne Sadowski, encouraging Jews of San Geronimo Valley to meet and discuss forming a congregation. Visiting my frail father in Connecticut had reconnected me to a Jewish life, and I became a second-generation congregation starter. Gan HaLev first started as a congregation by geography, but over the years has resonated with a range of Jewish seekers from a host of backgrounds. Along the way, we merged with the coastal Jews, the lost tribe of West Marin. We've had a dynamic Sunday school, celebrated many bar and bas mitzvahs and holidays, and recently hired our first official rabbi, Rabbi Elisheva Salamo, who will be co-presiding over the Freedom Seder here next week. My wife is also second-generation American, raised by two ex-Catholics who had a disdain for religion. Judaism holds a certain appeal to her, and although she has never converted, she's an active member of Gan HaLev and learned Hebrew and trope in order to participate in both of our daughters' bas mitzvahs. Our daughters, Sylvie and Shoshana, were born in China in 1993 and 1998, respectively, and have been raised in our Gan HaLev community. My older daughter resented her conversion, her formal conversion in mikveh, saying that she had always been Jewish. Why didn't the rabbi understand that? She worked as a madrachim in the Sunday school post her bas mitzvah, and her strong sense of Jewish self is part of her complicated identity at a Jesuit college in the Midwest, where she led the Shema and the V'ahavta in front of hundreds of non-Jews during freshman orientation. My younger daughter had her bas mitzvah last summer and is now also a madrachim and was an engaged participant in Jewish Children and Family Services Summer Impact Program as a middle schooler. How is my experience as a white Jewish American, part of the baby boomers that were the first Jewish generation told to dream that they too could one day become president, raised in a conservative shul in a middle-class suburb in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, where the Holocaust was never talked about while we listened to Alan Sherman records, similar to the other Jewish Americans on this panel, in this room, across America. Being a Jew in America can sometimes be invisible, sometimes be uncomfortable. My first college girlfriend's father referred to me as Little Israel. Our local school district in San Geronimo Valley has sometimes scheduled critical school events on the high holidays, and sometimes part of the warmest cabal imaginable. That is why my desire to understand who I am, who you are, and who I think you and I are, led me to start the Jewish American Fiction Book Club, where the works of talented writers such as Philip Roth, Cynthia Ozick, Steve Stern, and Nicole Krauss help us examine the American Jewish experience from perspectives of Holocaust survivors, new immigrants, and American-born Jews. We alternate between male and female authors, and every other month a group of us get together to learn just how varied and how similar our experiences are as we react to the novels. Jewish life in Marin offers us a luxury that has not always been available to Jews. We have the freedom to worship, the freedom not to worship, and the freedom to pursue a flavor of Judaism that we are both comfortable with and that stimulates us. And if that flavor doesn't exist, the combination of our Marin can-do attitude and our inherent chutzpah means, well, create it yourself. Thank you.